All right, we're going to quickly run through everything you need to do in order to get this CNC cut. So if you guys all want to open up your canvas real quick, I put a new module at the bottom of the course resources that has this dvctools.tools file. So if you guys all want to download that. Okay. So now that you've got it downloaded, if you try double clicking on it, you'll see it doesn't work. That's fine. That's normal. Save that to somewhere where you know you can find it. I think I have mine in my downloads. Yeah. So we're going to go to Autodesk Fusion, or, Fusion. And let's go ahead and show data panel. And I'm going to go home. So that you see your list of all projects and everything here. So everyone's home. We're going to scroll down to libraries and find assets. Does everyone have it? Does anyone not see assets? Cool. All right, we're going to open that. And then we're going to find CAM tools down here. And we're going to open that.
What if we don't have it?
What's that?
What if we don't have it?
If you don't have CAM tools, we will we'll just upload directly into the assets folder. So if you don't see CAM tools, that's fine. Just stay in this folder. If you have CAM tools, great. You won't have all these that I have here. And then we're going to click on Upload. We're going to click Select Files. And we're going to open our Tools file. So you're going to find that wherever you downloaded it to. And then open that. And then I'm going to click Upload. So now you should, either in your Assets folder or your CAM tools, if you had that folder, you should see your dvctools.tools in there. Now we're going to go to our little profile photo in the top right, and then click Preferences. So you should see this screen here. So again, that was the profile photo in the top right, and then Preferences. All right, looks like it looks a little bit different on Windows, but it's fine. It's pretty much the same thing. We're going to find our Manufacture tab here. I'm going to click on it. And then make sure that you have Enable Cloud Libraries turned on. All right. Once you have Enable Cloud Libraries turned on, you're going to hit Apply, which I've already done, and then you're going to click OK. So make sure you apply before you click OK. And then now we can close out our data panel if you want, just to keep your screen a little cleaner. So you should have your model in the design workspace as all bodies and not components yet. If you've made them components, it's not the end of the world. You didn't need to yet. Your steps will look a little different down the line. You'll have one less step to do. But right now, all of mine are considered individual bodies. All right, so we're going to go into our manufacturer workspace. And we're going to drop down Setup, and we're going to create a manufacturing model, just like we did when we were doing all of our laser cutting. Oh, and make sure that you haven't already scaled your chair. If you scaled your chair in your design workspace, undo that. So you guys don't need to follow along with me, but if you want to look up here and just see what I'm talking about, if I had at some point scaled this down for laser cutting, okay, it's a little messed up, but whatever, you're just going to have to bear with me. You can just find this little scale icon down here, right-click it, and delete. And then that'll make sure that everything is at full scale. Because this is for the CNC. This isn't for a laser cutter. This isn't a scale model. We're making the real deal now. All right, I'm going to go back here so you can see where I was at. If you ever don't see the same tools in the manufacturing model, it's because you've exited the like edit manufacturing model. So if your screen looks like this and you want it to look like what it's about to, you just need to right click and edit manufacturing model. And now I have all of these tools back, and now I'll actually have the arrange tool here. Speaking of which, we're going to go ahead and arrange. Oh, sorry, first, before we do arrange, we need to convert all of those bodies to components. So I'm going to drop down, my file here. I'm going to drop down bodies, and I'm going to select all of the pieces that you have here. If you have some that are hidden that you don't want, then you'll probably want to go through and select, like let's say I had these were all visible and that I wanted, and then let's say these three I didn't want, I would skip those, so I would just create chunks at a time, if that makes sense. But on my end, everything that I have here I want, so I'm going to select them all. I'm going to right click and create components from bodies. If you already had them created as components in your design workspace, that's fine, it's not the end of the world. But if you didn't, go ahead and do that now so that you have a bunch of individual components here instead of bodies. Okay. Now we're going to drop down modify, and we're going to arrange. And these should all be defaults here. If yours looks different for whatever reason, if it's rectangular or 3D arrange, change it to 2D arrange, or true shape, sorry. And then take note of objects selected by face. So when it comes to the CNC layout, if you're doing anything that has partial depth cuts, you need to make sure that that side of the pieces is face up. So in my case, it's going to be easier for me to select the bottom faces for everything. So I have face down selected, and maybe this will show you a little better here. Let's do. So you can see some of these have partial depth cuts. So like this bottom plate here has a cut that goes partially through it. So I want this face to be the bottom so that that face can be the top, so I can do those partial depth cuts. If it's better for you to do face up, then do that. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to zoom in when I'm selecting all of my bodies and make sure that I'm clicking on just a face. If you're zoomed out far enough, sometimes it will be selecting the whole body. So let's see if I can get it to do it. It's not doing it for me, but you want to make sure that you have just the face selected and not the whole body. So I'm going to click on that face. I'm just going to go through and I'm going to click on the bottom face of all of my parts. All right. So once I've done that, I'm still missing these inner ones. And the reason I haven't selected these on mine is because the bottom face that I want is the one that's in between these two panels right here. So let's see. Let me see if it's going to let me flip them. So if I click on this face here, so let's see. I might just start by not having that selected. Mine is an especially complex model, but make sure that you're keeping in mind, all your faces that you want to be face down are the ones you're selecting.
How do I know if I want them face down?
What's that?
How do I know if I want face down? I understand the partial depth, but
So these parts, let me change to So these pieces here have a partial depth
Yeah.
on them, but I want this to be the top face so it can cut part way through. I don't know if I have a better way to kind of show you that.
Kind of confusing, but that's okay.
But for your case, just yours is a lot simpler than mine.
It is.
Okay, so I've selected all of those. Now I'm going to go to my envelopes tab. I'm going to make sure that I have plane selected, and then this is highlighted in blue, this select thing here. And I'm going to click on this bottom plane. And then I'm going to change my length and width. So I'm going to change it to 48 inches by 48 inches. And then I'm going to uncheck Allow Partial Arrange. And then I am going to change my frame width to 0.75 inches. And I'm going to change the object spacing to 0.375 inches. And then you may or may not see envelope spacing if you have an additional extension turned on. Don't worry about changing that. What matters is frame width and object spacing. And then I'm going to click Preview, and you'll see it started to lay mine out. So in my case, I'm missing these pieces here. I'm not going to go ahead and bother selecting them because this is just for the sake of showing you how to do everything. So I'm going to click OK. And you'll notice now you have a new folder that says Arrangements. I'm going to turn off visibility of my original model, so I just have this arrangement visible. And what's key here is that every single cut that goes partway through is face up. I don't have anything on the bottom but these simple faces with no extra features, because you won't be able to cut any extra features up from the bottom. The CNC is a top-down milling machine, so your kind of detail is limited to what's accessible from the top. Okay, so now that you've laid everything out, we can finish edit, and it'll pop you out of your manufacturing model editing and into just your manufacturer workspace, where you should see your layout as you created it. Is everyone here? Is everyone following along that is trying to follow along? So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a setup. And we're going to, first thing we're going to do is change the stock from relative to fixed size box. We're going to change the width and height to 48, or width and depth to 48 by 48. And we're going to change the height to 0.5. And then we want to do, right now you'll notice it's all floating up here. I'm going to go back to the Setup tab, and I'm going to tell it that I'm going to select the models that I'm wanting to cut. I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these guys. Make sure you have every part selected, otherwise it might not work. Okay, I'm going to go back to my stock setup here, and I'm going to change all of my model positioning for the X and Y here. I'm going to change it from center to offset from left side, and I'm going to change the depth to offset from front side. I'm going to change each of these offsets to 0.75 inches. Cool.
Wait, so does that mean that your working space is 48 minus 1.5?
What's that?
Your working space for cutting?
Yeah, you have slightly less than 48 by 48 because you need to have a border spaced around of 3/4 of an inch, just to allow for any, imprecision with the setup of the CNC.
Can I take a picture of that?
Yeah, go for it. And this is all, I'm recording all of this, So we'll put it as a video as well. And then for your height, Z, make this whatever you set the height of your material to. In this case, I'm just going to do 1/2 inch to keep things simple. We can fix that later if we need to. So you have all of your models, bodies selected, and you have your stock set up so that you have the same, X and Y dimensions as I do. Z doesn't matter quite as much. And I'm going to click OK. So we've basically told the Fusion what our piece of wood is shaped like that's going to be on the CNC. So this is your big old plywood panel. And then now we're going to actually create some tool paths. So I'm going to try and keep this relatively simple here. If you have any partial depth cuts, you're going to want to start with that before you cut out the outer profile of your parts. So we're going to pretty much use 2 different tool paths here under 2D. We're going to use 2D adaptive clearing, and we're going to use 2D contour. So for these pockets that I have here and any partial depth pockets that you're doing, you're going to want adaptive clearing. And then we're going to go ahead and select basically anything that goes partially through your piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these faces here. This will look different for your chair, obviously, depending on what you have going on. All right, so once you have any and all of your partial depth cuts selected, we're going to go to our tool here, and we're going to click select. And you should see under your cloud tab, DVC tools. I have a bunch of extra ones here, don't worry about those. Just, you should have DVC tools, and then you should see this generic 1/4 inch bit here. And I'm going to go ahead and select that. So now it knows the dimensions and size and shape of that tool and what it's capable of doing and what it can't do. I'm going to go ahead and go to the passes tab here. For whatever reason, defaults to stock to leave being turned on. We need to turn this off. If you leave this on, it's not going to cut all the way up to the line, and it's going to leave extra material. So we are going to go ahead and turn that off. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK.
Is that like just if you wanted to keep things together out of the different material?
No, that's more so that stock to leave is on by default so that you can rough cut everything and then come back with another tool and do finishing passes. But this machine doesn't have a tool changer, so we're doing everything with one tool, so there's no need to even bother with that. Okay, you should see kind of a preview, and when you zoom in, what's going on with your cut here, and it's showing you basically the path that the tool will make to make all of these cuts. So yours will probably be a little cleaner and simpler than mine. What you want to look for, though, is that you have this valid check mark here. If it gives you a little yellow exclamation mark, come talk to me. We'll figure it out. But what matters is now we've basically cut all those half-depth cuts. If you want to double check everything and make sure that it looks good to you, you can right-click it and simulate. And then you can click play, and you'll watch the tool as it cuts out all of your pieces here. So it's going to do it in a lot of passes. just gonna go ahead and skip through. For whatever reason, on mine, you see these little red tick marks. That's any issues that the program thinks might happen. So I'll walk through those with you and make sure that everything looks good. I haven't bothered to check yet to see why. That's each of mine is telling me that the tool is moving too quickly when it starts off the cut. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that on mine. It's probably recommended that you do as well. So I'm going to right click this toolpath that we created and edit. And then I'm going to go to my linking tab and I'm going to, oh, my leads and transitions are on. Okay, well, I'll fix that later. That's something that you'll need to talk with me about if you see those little red tick marks that you just saw on the simulation, and I'll help you fix it. I'm not going to bother right now. So that's all of your partial depth cuts. And then any full depth cuts, you're going to want to use the 2D contour. And for this guy, you're going to go ahead and you're going to go and select the bottom profile of all of your parts. So you want to make sure it's the bottom one. Make sure you're not clicking on the top here. It's the bottom. And you just go through and click on all of those. So I have all those selected. I'm going to go to passes and I'm going to turn on multiple depths. And I'm going to change the maximum roughing step down to 0.25. And that's going to basically make it so that the deepest single pass cut that it's allowed to do is 1/4 inch deep. So effectively, in this case, because your material is 1/2 inch deep, it's going to cut this in 2 passes at 2 different depths. Okay.
Do you want more or less?
If you do all of it in a single pass, it would be faster, but you have a higher chance of breaking the bit or the bit burning up or a lot of things. So you want to kind of take it easy on the bit and let it do it in multiple passes, especially because we're only using a 1/4 inch diameter bit. It's a relatively smaller one. So
2 is better than 3, or
what's that?
like 2 passes is better than 3?
It's all just a time thing. 3 passes would get you an even cleaner result. That's going to take longer, and we're pressed for time right now. So I think 2 passes or a 1/4 inch step down is the right balance here. For a 1/2 inch thick material, 4 would be overkill. I think 3 is like high, super nice quality. 2 is good. 1 is a little too fast. Okay, we're also going to go to your geometry tab here, and we're going to check tabs on. And you'll notice it's put a ton of these little blocks on your shapes here. We don't need this many. Kind of a general rule of thumb that I try and go by is like every side of the part gets at least 1 tab, at most 2. So in this case, I'm going to say like, it's a little more complex of a shape, but I'm going to generalize and say that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 main edges here. There's a couple, curves and smaller flat edges here, but I just want to adjust my tab positioning by changing tab distance until I see about 1 every, per side. So let me try 7. And so that gets me close enough, it gets me 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and then 2 on this side. And I think that's a reasonable spacing for all of these parts where you have enough tabs to hold it in place. Because these are little chunks that won't get machined that'll hold each of your pieces to the rest of your sheet of plywood. But the more of them you have, the more work you make for yourself, because you have to cut all these off after the fact. So you want to find a good balance. Like I said, I have one per side here. Generally speaking, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Well, let me real quick before I do click OK. You can also change tab distance to like an unreasonably high number so it doesn't place any, and then just manually select where you want tabs to be. So if you have a more complex model and if you're really pressed for space on your sheet of plywood, you can place them all manually just by clicking like I'm doing here. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do every 7 inches it'll put a tab. If you are super packed on your sheet, talk to me. I'll help you place all your tabs. But for now, I'm just going to leave it spaced 7 inches. And I'm going to click OK. It's going to take a sec to load. Cool. And so now I see all my tool paths surrounding the parts, and I see 2 heights of these blue lines, which means I'm doing 2 passes with the tool. So now I can select both of those, or you can just right-click on Setup 2 and simulate. And then we can go ahead and click play, and we can watch the whole thing go through as it cuts. And I'm going to skip ahead because I've already seen it cut most of that. It can be a little slow, especially with a more complex model, for it to load. But we're basically watching, how the machine will cut everything. And you see it cuts out all of the perimeters here. And if I look, you see this little tab here. Now it looks like, oh, I forgot to do one thing. When you're creating that 2D contour cut, I'm going to go ahead and edit it here. Under your heights tab, we want to change bottom height offset to negative 0.05 inches, which is about a millimeter. And that's going to basically tell the machine to cut an extra 50 thousandths down, just to make sure it cuts all the way through your parts. So in this case, that's going to actually end up making this take 3 passes, which is more than we need. So I'm going to edit this as well. I'm going to change my maximum roughing step down to, let's say, 0.3, and click OK. And now I have 2 passes, and I'm just going to go ahead and simulate both of those. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to skip ahead pretty much to the end. And it's loading right now. This is a lot of info. I'm going to be helping all you guys out, and I'm also going to be individually checking all of your tool paths. So if something's not quite working, ask me. And if you have it, you feel like pretty close, that's fine, because I'm going to be checking over all of your stuff anyways to make sure. But now you can see what I'm talking about with these tabs here that kind of hold it attached to the rest of your sheet of material. And so now you can see what your cut will look like at the end of this process. So I'm going to go ahead and exit simulation. I'm going to make sure I save. And then you guys are going to turn in to me your Fusion 360 file. So you'll just export, and then change this to your name.
Will you make a canvas entries?
What's that?
Can you make a canvas?
Yes, I'll make a canvas spot for you to upload these. And then CAM, put that at the end. That stands for Computer Aided Machining, which will tell me that you've already done all the steps that I just showed you. So that I know that you're ready for me to check everything over. And then you'll save it wherever you want to on your computer, and then you'll upload that to Canvas. I'll make another module or assignment maybe. Yeah, I'll make another assignment for you to submit all of your Fusion 360 files to. Any questions? I know it's a lot of info. I'm gonna put this video up on Canvas as well. I'm gonna go ahead and stop now.